I'll be doing upgrades and mods to the engine, but since I'm doing this, I might as well make a full video with a lot of explanations for upgrades and mods. I'll talk about what upgrades to get and to avoid and why. Now, to choose what pipe to use and what pipes to avoid. Now, remember, this depends on tuning your cylinder, your other upgrades. It depends on a lot of things. Now, if you do upgrade the pipe, you need to retune your carburetor. Here's a quick demonstration on how a two-stroke pipe works. This is very simple and not hard to understand. The waves coming out are the positive pressure waves, and the waves coming back are negative pressure waves. Some unburned fuel from the transfer ports escapes and then is pushed back in, now at a certain RPM. This is in resonance, and that's what makes more power, peak power. That's what makes the power band kick in. Okay, now that you know how a two-stroke pipe works, those pipes, no, do not buy those. Don't buy those. Do not buy this. Or this. Or this. These are such a huge waste of money. You'll regret it. Sure, they will do better than a stock pipe, but it's honestly not going to do so much better than a stock pipe. Real MZ65. That's currently what I have on my bike. Well, my friend's bike. $120. Or if you want to save some money, then probably this one. Now, I don't know anything about these pipes ZDX65. I don't know if they do perform better or worse than these, but take a look at the header pipe. It does look better than this, maybe a little bit bigger. Or if you want a belly pipe like this, a belly pipe is a pipe that's under your frame. Or you can find some actual dirt bike pipes, YZ85, $120. You'll have to modify the header pipe, the flange. There's so many different pipes you can try. And now to upgrade your head. Now this depends on stud spacing and also your piston crown shape. Okay, the heads that you should avoid is this. These so-called performance heads or whatever. You want to look for actual CNC heads. This is the most common CNC head that people use. But the problem is, take a look at the combustion chamber. I measured it before. It's actually about 44 millimeters. If you don't measure squish gap, the piston will most likely hit the head and see that squish band. It doesn't look like it actually matches most pistons. So instead, get those if you can afford it. And the reason for that is because of better design and also the combustion chamber shapes. Yeah, that looks good. If you look here, it says 6cc. That is the cc volume of the combustion chamber. This one is 5.5cc, and that means a little bit more compression than this. A little bit more power. Don't forget to calculate the compression ratio. This one, it doesn't tell you, so you would have to measure it yourself. Okay, for an 80/100cc or 40 to 50 millimeter stud spacing, that's pretty much the only thing you can get on the site. So I don't see any more. It says here 50 millimeters. This will probably work. For 48 millimeters, there's also this and this. I chose this one for my Avenger 85, which has a flat squish band because the piston crown is also flat. Okay, the first mod is setting a smaller squish gap to increase compression for more power. But the problem is, the cylinder in its stock form, the squish gap is about 2 millimeters. I don't want that. Yet I don't have a head upgrade for it yet. So instead, I deleted the base gasket to lower the cylinder. Sanded down the stock head and head gasket until I could get to 0.8 millimeter gap. Another problem is, if you lower the cylinder, the transfer ports may not fully open at BDC. Doing this can cause performance loss. I gave it a try. I think I lost some power. The benefits you get from balancing and truing your crank is eliminating most of the vibrations, smoother rides, especially at higher RPM, improving life of your bearings, frame, and your balls. It's not going to tickle your balls anymore. Increasing some more RPM, revving more smoothly, getting up to RPM more quickly. Truing your crank improves the life of your bearings as well, and making it a little bit more balanced. That is all. To balance your crank, you obviously need a balancing stand or jig to find the original balance factor, and some good drill bits for metal. To true your crank, you're going to need a truing stand with a dial indicator. Either make your own or buy one. Now to find the original balance factor, I need to add weight to the connecting rod to the point it stops falling. If your crank does the opposite of this, you can try removing weight on the side to make the opposite side more heavier. Then you can proceed with the instructions as normal. Once that's done, you need to weight your hung rate, the top of the connecting rod, and your top end, aka piston assembly. Then let's use these calculators that Mike and Bikes made. Put your numbers in. It comes out as 48.55% balance factor. Then we move on to the second calculator. The reciprocating mass would be your top end plus top connecting rod, which would be 138 grams. I want 55%. It tells me I need to remove 9 grams total. Moving on to the third calculator, I want to use my biggest drill bit, which is a 3/8 of an inch, converted to 9.5 millimeters. This tells me that I need to drill 16.2 millimeters total. Dividing into 2 holes, it'll be 8.1 millimeters deep each. Don't forget to measure your web's thickness, and make sure it's not too thin. Mine's 15.5 millimeters, so I'm good. That's better. After trying this out, it is a lot more smoother now, a lot less vibrations. It seems to have increased some more RPM as well. Note, I'm still breaking in the engine and tuning the carburetor. Then we can upgrade the head. What do you benefit from upgrading the head? Better cooling, keeping it below 300 Fahrenheit, going fast for a long time. It depends. Better, smaller volume of the combustion chamber, so more compression. Holding temps for longer periods of time. Actually looks better than stock. And probably a couple more than I may not know. Ooh. This head uses O-rings, so head gaskets are no longer required. Thanks to this, I am actually able to use the base gasket to raise the cylinder back up and fully open the transfer port at BDC again, and then use 0.8mm screw cap. So this should increase the performance in total. So, it did help with some more RPM, but not a whole lot. However, it did want to go a little faster if I kept going. On the positive side, this upgrade made it more powerful, better acceleration, and the head did not go over like 250 Fahrenheit. Next upgrade is the pipe. The benefits you get from upgrading the pipe: more performance, better power band, where it makes more power at a certain RPM. It has a back pressure, meaning it pushes the unburned fuel back into the cylinder. Actually sounds way better, makes your bike look better. Keep in mind that you'll have to retune your carburetor, since you're either restricting the flow or not. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, I'm gonna need to chamfer these. Okay, there we go. Perfect. These are the only tools you'll need. Now, I probably should have upgraded the carburetor first, cause otherwise you're bottlenecking your setup more. If you do upgrade the carburetor and port your cylinder, you might want to make sure that your header pipe is big enough. But anyways, what I want to do here is increase performance overall, such as more horsepower and RPM. To increase power, you can widen the exhaust port, maybe the intake, depending if it's too small or not. In my case, it's big enough. Also, before you do anything with your intake, please remember, do not raise the intake port at all, cause otherwise at BDC it may actually start to open, so don't. For most power possible, do at most 70% of the bore. I'll do like 65% to be safe. Doing this may trade you a low-end power for more high-end power. Well, mid to high-end, according to this video, if you do raise the exhaust.
Why is gaining exhaust area by raising versus widening the port possibly a bad idea? By raising the port, you increase port timing, and here's why that can lead to bad things. When the exhaust port opens, a pulse starts traveling down the pipe. It gets reflected by the rear cone and should return just before the port closes again. This will block fresh mix from escaping and also push some of the mix that has escaped into the duct into the cylinder again. If you raise the port and thereby increase port timing, this pulse will take off earlier and has to return later. This raises your power band in the RPM range, just like a shorter pipe would do.
To get it back down in the RPM range, you could always try increasing the length of your header pipe, I think. Okay, here I am lowering the intake by about half a millimeter. I am basically just free porting and experimenting, and that's about it. Winding up the exhaust up to 34 millimeters. Keep the port oval shaped to avoid ring snagging as much as possible. I raise the exhaust about half a millimeter. And to finish this up, I use 600 grit sandpaper to clean up the lips. The reason I'm doing this is because, well, sharp edges. The benefits you get from upgrading from stock carburetors. Bigger ventures, so more airflow with more fuel, more performance, better idle circuits, using pilot jets, which stock carburetors don't have, and an air or fuel screw. First, you need to figure out what intake manifold to use. Measure the stud spacing on your intake. For instance, mine is 40mm. The carburetor that I have has a 48mm stud spacing. So I need a 42-48mm intake manifold. I didn't like how the inside looked, so I modified it. Ah, much better. Is that? Huh?